The Zero Friction CEO: How to Scale Without Burnout and Reclaim Your Life. Hi, I'm Dr. Noah St. John from SuccessClinic.com. And in this video, I'm going to show you how my Zero Friction CEO framework works and has worked for 7, 8, and 9-figure CEOs and founders just like you from all around the world, and helping them make over $3 billion collectively since 1997. So if you are a CEO or founder who wants to scale without friction and reclaim your life, this video right here is for you. All right, so let's get right to it. So here is the framework, the foundational framework for all of the work that I've been able to do. And one of the main reasons that I've helped my clients like you to make over $3 billion since 1997. And that is every business problem you're facing right now is a friction problem. That's why you need a zero friction solution. So reaching your goals is like driving your car. All right, so imagine you're driving in your car and you want to go to the grocery store to pick up some milk and eggs. So you're in your car. Well, when you're in your car, there are two forces at work. The first is the force of your foot on the gas, which propels you forward. And the second is your foot on the brake, which slows you down or stops you. Now, how do brakes work in your car? Well, they work with friction, right? So you apply friction and then that slows you down or stops you. And then you're propelled forward by your foot on the gas. Well, here is the problem. Right now in your business, you have hidden friction. That means your foot is on the brake unknowingly, unwittingly. But your foot on the brake, that hidden friction, is costing you right now. It could be costing you hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars every single year. And I'm going to give you several examples from my clients who I've helped to, number one, identify that hidden friction, and number two, remove that hidden friction, applying my zero friction CEO framework that enabled them to add billions of dollars over the last 30 years. Here's one example. Adam, he was a CEO. I met him when I was speaking at a seminar in Los Angeles. He hired me on the spot because he said, Noah, you are the coach that I've been looking for. Now, he had a company where he was at 7 figures, but his business was plateaued for the previous 4 years. In 4 years, they hadn't been able to grow, and he had thrown hundreds of thousands of dollars at the problem, hired every marketing guru under the sun, but he couldn't break through that income ceiling. So he heard me speak and he hired me on the spot. Well, I coached him and his leadership team for 18 months. And in that 18 months, we were able to get his company that had been flatlined for the previous 4 years to over 20 million in revenues in less than 18 months. That's a 600% increase in less than 18 months. Most CEOs would be thrilled with a 10%, a 15% increase. Try 600%. That's what we like to call hockey stick growth. You're kind of going along like this, and then whoop, we apply my zero friction framework, boom, and that is hockey stick growth. So that's one example. Here's another example. Now, Pat came to me. He was frustrated. He runs an 8-figure business, and he was answering phone calls. He was answering emails. He was doing all of that, as I call it, $10 an hour work. Right? Now that has to be done, but it shouldn't be done by you, the CEO, right? So I helped him to delegate that and put my zero friction CEO framework in place. Well, now he has gained well over 10 hours per week, so gaining his life back. And right now we are currently helping him to negotiate a 9-figure exit. So he's going to walk away with a very, very nice large sum of money, right, as a result of the work that we've done together. Here's another one of my clients, Charles. He read one of my books. He found it in Barnes & Noble, my Power Habits book, and he contacted me on my website. He said, Noah, I want to hire you as my coach. And I said, how much do you think it's costing you, Pat, if we don't have this in place, with having this friction? And he said $1 million. It's easily going to cost me $1 million, to if we don't get this in place. And so I said, well, why don't you just give me 10% of that million and I'll find you $1 million in the next 12 months. Well, as it turns out, I coached him. He invested that $100K for me to coach him one-on-one. I coached him for a year. And as it turns out, I didn't find him $1 million in the next 12 months. Instead, I found him $1.8 million in just 10 months. So he gave me $1 and I gave him $18 back. Is that a good deal? No, that's a great deal. And he actually emailed me and he said, hey, Noah, guess where I am? I'm on a 7-week vacation with my wife. He said, this is a dream I've had for the last 20 years, but I never had the time or the money before. And so now, because of coaching with you, now I have the time and the money I always wanted. So he literally said, thank you, Noah, for changing my life. So these are just a few of the success stories and case studies that you can see on our website. Now, what's my story? Well, very briefly, I had built up a very successful business, but I found myself working all the time, literally working these 60, 70, 80, 90-hour weeks, right? Maybe some of you can relate to that. Well, the point is, I was working away like I was doing. And one day, my wife, she knocked on the window at my office, and she was holding up a sign that says, "Please come out and play." And that's when I realized that was my light bulb moment. I said, "Noah, what are you doing? Here you are, you're working all the time. Yeah, you're making good money, but what is the point of all this? Why are you doing this?" Right? And I realized this is really dumb. I'm working for my business. I want my business working hard for me. And that was really the light bulb moment where I really started to dive into this whole idea of friction, right? Having a friction-free empire and creating the zero friction framework, which I did. So after that, I was able to apply it to my own business and my own life. And, now I'm able to take my family on fun vacations to Hawaii, to Florida, to the Caribbean, wherever we want to go, right? So that's the dream, isn't it? To really have, yes, of course you want the money, but isn't it more important to really have a life? So that's really the point of what I do here. So the point is that many of us were given the wrong map. We were given the wrong map as entrepreneurs, right? First of all, we were told to equate grind with freedom, right? Just keep grinding away, right? And then it'll work somehow. I'm like, really? Does it? Working harder does not automatically create more personal or business freedom. In fact, the hustle culture often traps leaders instead of liberating them. You know that's true. Next, adding more executives won't reduce stress, because adding layers of management can increase complexity and pressure rather than alleviate stress, contradicting common beliefs about scaling teams. I can't tell you how many CEOs and founders I've talked to that said, Noah, I was bringing home more money when I was making 7 figures. Now, than I was making at 8 figures. They're bringing in more money, but where's my money, right? And where's my time? Where's my life? Exactly, right? Dashboards don't guarantee clarity. Right? Relying on numerous dashboards can cause information overload, reducing clear decision-making rather than improving that. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And traditional scaling causes burnout, not freedom. The conventional approach to business growth often leads to exhaustion and burnout, undermining the actual goal of achieving true freedom through success. Isn't that so true? All right, so that's what we want to get out of. So listen, most of us were given the wrong map, right? And if you're given the wrong map, you can be going in the right direction and you're still not going to end up where you want to go. So here's some more bad advice that scales chaos, not freedom. What they told you that's killing your profits and your sanity. First is, of course, just work harder. Hey, if you're not getting what you want, just work harder. Brilliant, right? That's a great idea. Working harder often leads to burnout and increases chaos rather than creating freedom or sustainable growth, right? No duh. We know that at this point, don't we? Well, just hire more, right? Great advice. Adding more employees without strategy can complicate operations and escalate management challenges instead of simplifying them. And finally, just add more tools, right? AI, right? That's the new thing. Hey, tools are great. We need tools to build our business. Nothing wrong with them. The point is that if you just keep throwing tools together, introducing numerous tools can increase complexity and confusion, rather than streamlining processes or improving efficiency. So that all of this is bad advice. It sounds good on the surface, but it just doesn't work, right? So we have a broken map. The real freedom requires fixing internal friction, not just the external appearance. So here's what so many CEOs and founders I talk to are telling me. Everything looks fine from the outside, right? Hey, I look great. I look fine. So outwardly, it looks like you've achieved everything you've ever wanted, right? And everybody looks to you and say, wow, he's made it, she's made it. They're looking amazing. The reality, exhaustion and missed moments. You're tired of being tired, running on fumes and missing life's most meaningful experiences, right? It's like drinking seawater when you're thirsty, right? I'm thirsty, here, let's take some seawater. That's really not going to help, right? Attempting to solve internal issues by quick fixes only makes it worse, right? And true freedom means friction-free. True freedom means friction-free, because true success and freedom come from resolving internal conflicts, not just maintaining an external image. All right, so the dream versus reality. Here's the dream for so many entrepreneurs, CEOs, and founders, right? Entrepreneurs dream of freedom and luxury, right? That's why we started a business. We envisioned Fridays in Paris and weekends in Monte Carlo, symbolizing the ultimate lifestyle of success and leisure achieved through entrepreneurship. But the reality often means being tied to work. Instead of exotic getaways, entrepreneurs frequently find themselves chained to Zoom calls with a laptop on the beach towel, highlighting the demanding nature of building a business, right? So you're supposed to be relaxing on the beach. Instead, you're tied to Zoom meetings. Not so great. True wealth means enjoying life. The ultimate goal of wealth is to enjoy life fully, not to remain constantly chained to work. Balancing business with personal joy is essential for long-term happiness and success. Wouldn't you agree with that? All right, so here are the 3 key obstacles to building a friction-free empire. Now, I'm going to get to my friction-free empire framework in just a moment, but I want to show you first the obstacles, why so many CEOs, founders, entrepreneurs have so many problems with this, but it's very easily solved once you have the right framework. All right, so the first obstacle is fragile growth depends too much on the CEO, on you, right? So here are the symptoms. The CEO, you, remain the rainmaker with deals and strategy hinging on their presence and implementation. It's all dependent on you. So what's the cure? Well, you install my zero friction framework that sustains pipeline and revenue autonomously and automatically. That means you don't have to do everything, right? Like Pat, I talked to you about earlier, right? I freed up 10 to 15 hours per week for him. Awesome. The second obstacle is team struggles to scale alongside the business. So here's the symptoms. Delegation leaks and weak middle management force the CEO into daily firefighting. You know exactly what I'm talking about. And the cure is to build a true leadership team with clear roles, simple scorecards, and weekly rhythms so the business runs itself. Great idea, huh? And finally, the third obstacle, systems break under operational weight. The symptoms are cash flow relies on hustle and brute strength. Unplugging slows everything. If you take 7 weeks off, like my client Charles, everything's going down the tubes, right? So what's the cure? Upgrade to friction-free systems with automated delivery flows and operational guardrails that enable capacity without chaos. Great idea, huh? Okay, so let's look at the 4 stages of a friction-free empire, and I want you to score yourself. Where are you right now? Where do you find yourself right now? Here's the first stage. Feast or famine. Yeah, good old feast or famine. At this stage, leads dry up frequently, causing panic and uncertainty, reflecting an unstable and reactive business flow. A lot of people are there, right? Stage 2, leads through hustle and referrals. Leads are coming in mainly through intense effort and word-of-mouth referrals, requiring constant hustle to maintain momentum. Third, consistent pipeline. Okay, now we're getting a little better. A steady and predictable flow of leads emerges where clients actively seek out your services, reducing stress and increasing confidence. And finally, the stage 4, where we want to get to, is scale with freedom. And that means your business scales smoothly with profit and lifestyle balance, delivering freedom and sustainable growth without constant firefighting. So where are you now on the scales, the stages of a friction-free empire? Stage 1, 2, 3, or 4? We want to get to 4, don't we? All right, so here are some more examples from my clients, right? From failure to 40 million, right? So before, this is Britnie. She described herself as a failure. Now, I would never describe herself as that, but that's what she said in her video. And she just didn't believe this was going to work for her. You know, she tried everything. She said, how is this going to be any different? Well, I coached her on my zero friction framework, and her company grew to over $40 million. And yes, this is true. Now she owns her own island, her own private island in the Caribbean. So that's what we like to call a hockey stick. Here's Brian. He made an extra $95,000 in 12 days. That's not a typo, 12 days, right? He was stuck after trying everything. He thought he couldn't afford this, right? He thought it was too expensive. So he said, but let's do it anyway. So I coached him on my zero friction framework. He made $95,000 in 12 days, and he was living in Boston when I met him. And as a result of coaching with me, he decided to move from Boston to Aruba. Now he has a thriving business in Aruba. From Boston to Aruba, you're welcome. Pretty awesome, right? Here's Thomesa, right? She was a self-described seminar junkie, right? She's going to all these seminars, going to all these places, all these gurus, and she was doing well in her business, but she just couldn't break through that income ceiling, no matter how hard she hustled, right? How hard she was grinding. And she just didn't think she had the time to implement any changes. So I coached her on my zero friction framework. And in the first 2 weeks of coaching with me, she tripled her investment, tripled in just 2 weeks. Again, most CEOs, founders would be thrilled with a 10 or 15% increase. How about a 300% increase in just 2 weeks? All right. And here's Steven, right? His business grew 800%. He was looking for more transformation so he could spend more time with his family, but he was burned out by the gurus, the hustle culture. So I coached him on my zero friction framework, and his business grew 800%. while spending more time with family. Are you seeing the pattern here? Zero friction means whoop, means hockey stick growth. Okay, so here is my friction-free empire framework. Here it is right here. Here's the framework. So the goal, friend, is to have a friction-free empire, right? That's where, like I was talking about earlier, the stage 4 of your business, it's essentially running without you. You are the zero friction-free EO. Now, what does that look like? There are 3 main elements here of a friction-free empire, and they are money, meaning, and freedom, right? So we want money. Money's important. Last time I checked here on planet Earth, but we also want meaning, right? Because what good is money if you don't have the meaning behind it? There are a lot of miserable millionaires out there, and you don't want to be one of those. Yes, it's great to be a millionaire or a billionaire. No problem there. But where's the meaning? So for so many people, that's missing. So that's the second element. And then the third element is freedom, like I've been talking about, right? You just don't want to be chained to your business anymore. All right, so those are the 3 elements of a friction-free empire. Now, what are the 3 obstacles in the way of having that friction-free empire? Well, the first problem is a lack of direction. All right, now I want you to notice this. There is a red, yellow, green, right? A stoplight here. And I want you to rate yourself here in just a moment as I go through these problems, these obstacles, right? So there are 3 essential problems that I've been fixing for my clients for the last 30 years with 3 essential solutions. So the problems are, the first problem is a lack of direction. Now the symptoms are constant overthinking, inconsistent action, and shiny object syndrome. So can you relate to any of those? The second problem is a lack of focus, right? That means you're easily distracted, you have procrastination loops, and no follow through, right? So if you don't know where you're going, that means you often have a lack of focus, right? Which has all of these symptoms. And finally, the third problem is isolation and overwhelm. And that means no support system, you're overloaded and stressed, and you have a self-doubt spiral that just keeps going down and down. So can you relate to any of these problems or their associated symptoms? All right, so how do we solve this? Well, we solve a lack of direction by giving you the right plan, right? It's like building a house. When you're building a house, you have to have a plan, a blueprint, right? Other than that, if you don't have a plan, if you don't have a blueprint, you're just slapping boards together. And that's what I see so many CEOs and founders and entrepreneurs doing every day. They're busy slapping boards together and wondering why a house hasn't shown up yet. The second solution that we give you is the right tools, right? So if you have a lack of focus, well, you need the right tools, right? So just like building a house, right? You need the plan, but you also need the tools to build your house. So we're going to build it in the right way with the right foundation. And finally, we give you the right support. All right, so that's how we get you out of isolation and overwhelm, by giving you the right support. All right, so with each of these solutions, there are what we call milestones. All right, so the first milestone for having the right plan for you is to define your vision. Right. So many entrepreneurs, they knew what they wanted when they started, but they've got away from their vision. Right. So first, that's the first milestone, is to define your vision. So what I want you to do as I go through these milestones, rate yourself red, yellow, green, meaning I'm doing really well. Give yourself a green. I'm doing okay on this. Give yourself a yellow. And I'm really not doing so hot is a red. All right. So for your vision, is that a red, yellow, or green? Next, we design your roadmap. All right. So we want to know how to get there, right? There's where we're going. That's your destination. How do we get there? So are you clear on your roadmap? Rate yourself red, yellow, green on your roadmap. Next, for the right tools, the next milestone is to focus priorities. All right. So many of you are doing things that you shouldn't be doing. Like I've talked about earlier, you're doing $10 an hour work when you should be doing $1,000 an hour work, right? So are you doing red, yellow, green on your priorities? Next, master habits. Right? We have to give you, and what I teach you is what we call the power habits of unconsciously successful people. What highly successful people are doing unconsciously that they can never teach you, number one, and therefore they're often giving you bad advice, that wrong map that I showed you earlier. So are you doing well on your habits, red, yellow, green? And then finally, for the right support, first we upgrade your network. That means, you've heard that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. Well, maybe we need to upgrade your network, right? So that you are spending time with the right people, and you might have to let some other folks go, right? So rate yourself red, yellow, green there. And finally, leverage mentorship. All right. So it's very, very important that we leverage the mentorship so that we get you to that friction-free empire. So rate yourself red, yellow, green here on all of those different milestones. And this is my friction-free empire framework right here. Okay. So how are you doing with this? All right. So here are some more examples from my clients. From stuck to multi-billion-dollar deals. This is Bill, right? He had studied personal growth for 30 years. 30 years doing this, but he still felt stuck. He was doing okay, again, doing well, but he couldn't break through that income ceiling. So after I coached him on my zero friction CEO framework, he started doing multi-million and then multi-billion-dollar deals, right? And he finally found the work-life balance that he's been searching for. Now, this is Stacey from Canada. She was overwhelmed, right? She was stuck at six figures. She was doing well, but she was burned out by overwork and hustle culture, right? She's a health professional, and she told me that she wanted to see more patients, to make more money. I said, well, that's fine, Stacey, but you realize that means you're going to be able to spend less time with your family. So wouldn't it be great to make more and spend more time with your family? And she said, well, yeah, that'd be great. So anyway, I coached her on my framework, and she grew to six-figure months while spending more time with family. Now, this is a picture of her and her family on a vacation, a VIP trip to the Grand Canyon. Now, when I started coaching her, she told me that was her dream. She said, no, I'd love to be able to take my family on a VIP trip to the Grand Canyon. I said, that sounds great. Now, when would you like to do that? She said, well, it'd be amazing if we could do it in the next, 5 to 7 years. She said, 5 to 7 years, that'd be great. Well, guess what? We got her there. She sent me these pictures 18 months after we started working together, right? So instead of 5 to 7 years to reach your goals, imagine getting there in just 18 short months. Okay. All right. And here's George, right? From Austin, Texas. He was working 80-hour weeks as an employee when he met me, right? And he dreamed of starting his own business, but he just didn't know where to start or who to trust, right? So I coached him on my framework, and he started his own company, which now grew to over 20 million, right? ARR. So incredible success stories. And we've got so many more. If you want to see more, we have over 250 five-star reviews here on my webpage. If you just go to the noahstjohn.com, you can check it out. It's the reviews page, or coachingwithnoah.com. It's all there, along with these celebrities, big names like Jenny McCarthy, Gary Vaynerchuk, Jason Hewlett, and on and on and on and on, Stephen Covey, and so on. Okay. All right, so introducing the zero friction profit scan. So your question is, well, where do I go from here, Noah? This all sounds great. Now, what do we do? All right, so there are two things that we want you to do right now. All right, so if you have already gotten your zero friction gap audit, your next step is the zero friction profit scan. All right, now that link will be right here on this page, and you want to get that zero friction profit scan so we can do a deep dive on your business and understand exactly where your profit leaks are. Now, if you have not yet taken your zero friction gap audit, that's the first step you need to do. And I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. All right, but let's talk about that zero friction profit scan. So this is a proprietary diagnostic tool that uncovers profit leaks. We're going to identify the decision delays that are reducing efficiency. It measures wasted leadership time in meetings. How many wasted hours and hours do you have in meetings right now? Right? We're going to detect hidden attrition and churn that's affecting your revenue. And we're going to evaluate ineffective marketing efforts that are hurting your profits right now. Okay. So if you have not yet taken your zero friction gap audit, that's the first step. So you start at zerofrictionceo.com. All right. That's the first thing you do. Now, if you've already taken your zero friction gap audit, your next step is to click the button right here on this page and get your zero friction profit scan today. Now, we only do 5 of these per month because these are very customized and personalized. It's a very deep dive into your business, into your profit leaks, and into the friction that's hurting you right now, that's stopping you from reaching your goals. All right, so here is the promise that we have for the zero friction profit scan. We will discover $250,000 in profit leaks, or your fee is refunded. What does that mean? That means you get 100 times return on your investment, 100x. Right? Literally, well, a 10x return. It's a 10x return on your investment. All right. Which means you can't lose. All right. No, it is 100x, right? It's 100 times more. You can't lose. All right. You can't lose with this. Right. So either we're going to find $250,000 in profit leaks, or we're going to refund your money. And guess what? In 30 years, I've never had to refund once. Not one single time have I had to refund. All right. So go ahead and do that right now. If you have already gotten your zero friction gap audit, just click the button on this page and secure your zero friction profit scan right now. If you haven't, start with the gap audit at zerofrictionceo.com. For everyone here at successclinic.com, I'm Dr. Noah St. John, signing off for now. I look forward to talking with you soon, and I look forward to being a part of your success story. See you soon.